As you may know, if you're a regular listener, we like to spotlight candidates around the country who are genuinely progressive in their outlook, who are really trying to make a difference with their candidacy and not just add a line to their resume or whatever other motives people may have. And I'm delighted to say that this week's progressive candidate is a friend of ours, friend of the program, somebody I respect very much. Eric Kingson is professor of social work at Syracuse University. He is a faculty affiliate of the university's Aging Studies Institute, and he is founding co-director of Social Security Works and founding co-chair of the Strengthen Social Security Coalition. Eric, who has been on the program before in that capacity, is also a candidate now for Congress in New York's 24th Congressional District. He's here to talk about that race with us now, and we welcome him. Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, great to be here. Always, Richard.
So listen, as I've told you privately, and I will tell you again publicly, I am delighted with your candidacy. I find it inspirational for reasons I'll explain shortly. But tell us a little bit, first of all, about the district. Let's start there. Where exactly is the 24th Congressional District in New York?
It's in central New York, mainly. It's around Syracuse, New York. 4 counties: Syracuse, Cayuga County, which has the city of Auburn in it, Wayne County, and also Oswego, the portion of Oswego that has the city in it.
So essentially the core, the urban core of that district is primarily Syracuse. So people would know mostly Syracuse. And why are you running? You've had a long and distinguished career in other fields. What compelled you to run for Congress?
In many ways, it's the experience we've all had, and you've been part of this too, in launching an effort to first block cuts to Social Security and then lay the foundation for expanding Social Security so that we have paid family leave within it. We have higher benefits so that people coming up in their 50s, 40s have a stronger retirement system, and so that today's olds have a stronger system.
So that's a good reason, I guess, to jump into the political process. And what made you?
The other piece of it is my utter sadness and anger about where our country is and what we're doing, which is fundamentally undermining our democracy and undermining the dignity of hardworking people.
So basically, the experience of seeing the political process, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would paraphrase that as the experience of seeing the political process hijacked.
I think you're correct.
So how long have you been formally a candidate for Congress?
Well, I had never planned on running for Congress. I had a discussion with my wife and my son back in May about what I might do next in my life. And we started talking, and someone said, well, what about running for Congress? I said, no, probably not. Maybe if I was 20 years younger. And they said, think about it. And I started to think about it and realized I wanted to do it. I then started to explore. By the end of May, I was convinced I was going to run. So it's that, but it's not just to run for Congress. There are plenty of good things to do with our lives. And there are plenty of good things, as you know, many people in Washington do. I decided that it was worth both taking some of the messages we had developed on Social Security, but also just speaking out about the things I believe. And the need in our Congress for people who are direct, who are honest, who care about others, and are also very strong. I'm finding one of the issues I've become most passionate about is campaign finance, having now seeing it up close.
So yeah, I can imagine. I guess, one of the reasons why I mentioned in introducing you that I found your candidacy inspirational is that you said it yourself. I think your original reaction was, well, maybe if I were 20 years younger. There's a kind of a cultural bias in this country, it seems to me, against people starting new endeavors, new careers, beyond a certain age, and I don't know, for some careers that may be 50, for rock and roll music, which was one of my first careers, that might be 25. But whatever it is, there's a sense that I feel as if, and since you're also a sociologist, you're part of the Aging Studies Institute and so on, I feel that our society, which prides itself on its freedom and social mobility, we could talk a lot about those things, but is very ossified in its thinking about age and what to do with your life. And so one of the reasons why I appreciated your career is that in the end, I think you basically said, well, okay, these are the kind of cultural norms of what to do at whatever age, but the hell with it, I'm doing this anyway. Is that a fair?
That's fair. I think, the conversation I actually had with my wife and son was phrased in, what am I going to do when I grow up?
Uh-huh.
And this is what I'm doing while I grow up. But beyond that, I do study aging. I've written books about the aging process and the importance of the way we think about aging culturally. It's a chance to put some of that in practice. Early on, when I was talking with someone who was helping me out in the campaign, he was a fellow in a union. He came back and he said, a couple guys came up to me and said, Kingson seems pretty good, but is it true that he's 70 years old? And I immediately channeled Maggie Kuhn, who you know.
Right.
I immediately channeled the lessons of Maggie and I said, Mark, next time someone says that, tell them I'm 69 and I'm proud of it. I'm doing exactly what we ought to be doing, giving back.
Yeah.
And parenthetically, at all ages. But so there's a piece of that, and there's also wanting to be a voice on aging. But I conceptualize aging as a study from life, from birth through old age. And so I don't just view the old as today's old. I'm concerned about what follows. So when I say campaign contributions, I'm worried about having a legacy of democracy for our children and grandchildren. Just turn that off. I'm worried that we are basically losing our democratic system, that campaign contributions, we always know that corporate contributions have skewed our politics towards corporations. Now we have this overlay of billionaire controls and contributions and structuring the presidential race and our politics. Horrible. Third thing I've become very aware of is, as a candidate, you have to raise a heck of a lot of money. It's a really unpleasant process. But the worst part of it is you're told after you win, you're going to have to spend 30 hours a week raising money every week, beginning the day you win. And my response to that now, and I'm getting very clear on it, is I guess a lot of people go to Congress who are pretty bright, but after several terms, they're not bright because they've spent 30 hours a week raising money instead of talking to their constituents, instead of reading the work they need to read for their committee assignments, or instead of just having some fun. I'm committed at this point. I am doing fundraising. When I win, if I win, I will not be one of these members who does 30 hours a week because I think it's obscene. I will do some to keep the system going, my system going, but we have to stop it. And the other piece that's obscene about this is you become a candidate and you realize all of a sudden you're thinking about how much can everyone give you. Now, I'm not a greedy person at all, but in the end, what happens is a lot of relations, you look at people and you see dollar signs on their forehead. It's a lousy way to run a system. We desperately need public funding of campaigns, shorter campaign periods, airwaves being turned over to the political process without requiring large expenditures for ads. So we need quite a lot in our system to fix it, and we need to get rid of Citizens United.
Well,
and
there's
probably 4-year terms for members of the House.
Well, there's probably no better way to really get a gut feeling for how broken our system is than to become a part of it. We're talking with Eric Kingson, who is congressional candidate in New York's 24th congressional district. There's so much that brings up. First of all, it suggests, among other things, that our current political process really selects for people who have a great kind of sales skill, which is what asking for money is. And I think that's an impressive skill, but it should not be the what distinguishes an elected official from someone who can't get elected. I guess the other thing that occurs to me is that your candidacy reflects, as in a way I think the Bernie Sanders candidacy does, although Bernie is a career politician, but yours reflects the idea that we should have all sorts of diversity in the political process, whether it's age diversity or any other kind, and the notion of the citizen politician, the notion that the qualification for office shouldn't just be that you've spent your academic career preparing or your business career preparing for elected office, but that people from all walks of life should be part of the deliberations that make up a democracy.
There are many people out there who could be outstanding and who don't have the chance. I'm fortunate that I'm able to have the chance. The reality is the reason we have so many millionaires in the Congress, multimillionaires, is that it's hard. It's financing so difficult, but you're absolutely right. We need regular people in the Congress of all sorts, and that's a piece of what we're doing. You also need people who've had lifelong commitments to engagement. You don't have to be an engaged person and be in politics. You can also do some of the things I've done, involvement in civil rights early on, involvement in teaching for 30 or 40 years, involvement in protecting and expanding Social Security. So there should be many paths.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with that more. So what's next for you? What's the timeline for your candidacy?
Okay, I'm running in a primary on June 28th. It's going to be a hard primary. I believe I'll win. Of course, everyone who runs in a primary believes they'll win. So we'll see. I'm running and I'm needing to raise money, which is hugely concerning, but also going to be working very hard in expanding our base. One of the things that's happened in the congressional district I'm in, it's considered one of the 10 top swing districts in the country. It's turned over 4 times in the last 4 electoral cycles. It's one thing to win in a presidential year if you're a Democrat. Democratic years are good for the Democrat who's running for Congress here. The trick is to keep it. And the way I'm going to keep it, if I win it, is also how I'm going to help win it. I want to get out to a lot of people who haven't voted, who've been voting Republican, that is. There are folks, older people, who've been voting against their self-interest and against their grandchildren's self-interest. They're fed up with being told they haven't earned their money. They're fed up with being called greedy geezers. I think there's a message to deliver around generational exchange. I also think of that in terms of campaign finance. As I said, I worry about not having this legacy to pass forward to kids. But the other side of it is I want to give messages to young people who I want to bring in to broaden the base, which is, yes, our democracy is broken. Yes, our politics is horrible, but it's up to you to fix it. You have to be involved. You can't just turn away from it. Because if we turn away from it, we hand all the keys over to the interest of billionaires and corporations who do not have our back. So all of those things are important. And of course, the range of issues, the inequality, the environment, there's so many things that are tied together, but we need to have control of our politics. So my plan is to win the primary, which will be a tough primary, and be working to expand the base of the party as we go forward so that we can win in 2 years from now after the first one.
Well, how can people find out more about your candidacy? Where can they go to learn more and maybe even contribute, since fundraising is such a big deal?
They can go to erickingson.com, ERICKINGSON.com. And if they're interested in the field of aging, and I'll say this with some humor, but I was just at an aging conference, the Gerontological Society, and as part of that, I put together a special website called sendagerontologisttocongress.org.
Okay.
So if you want a little goofy idea there, but there's some interesting stuff. I've been very involved in this field. And you meant the thing about aging, I think, is important. I want to be a voice for tomorrow's old as well as today's old, and for the kinds of issues you raised too about the dignity of people throughout their lives, how we have to teach young people it's okay to get old. I mean, when you and I were in our 20s and 20s, we didn't trust anyone over 30. Damn thing happened, we got over 30. And there's a lot to learn, and we learn at all ages. And there's a lot to be done in terms of interacting with many people. The work I've done in Washington with folks you know has been the most wonderful work, in large part because it was across ages. But so basically, take a look at erickingson.com, ERICKINGSON.com, and send $1 million because that would really help. Because
Right.
the Democratic establishment is not helping me. If
Right.
anything, they've been actively opposed to having a strong progressive, speak in this district. They believe that you have to run someone more centrist to beat a centrist member, a Republican centrist. They don't believe that Social Security is a core issue to engage people on. They play the same politics they played for many years, where they want to put up someone who has money and or is a centrist, or if not a centrist. And they haven't been very polite about it either. They've really been really remarkably unusual. I've lost a lot of respect for the Democratic Campaign Coordinating Committee, and I've lost respect for this, not respect, deeply concerned in a way that I've never been before I ran for office at how broken the system is, our campaign finance. We can't afford to let those who are the very well off, those who've benefited from the dramatic inequality we've created, the hemorrhaging of income and wealth to the upper 1%, 0.1%, we can't afford to let them also run our politics because it's just going to get worse. So we have a job to do. We can do it. We've seen tough things happen in our society, and we've seen changes happen when people work together and work hard. That's what I'm planning to do.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be following your candidacy with great interest. Of course, you're a friend as well as an ally. So, Eric Kingson, congressional candidate from the 24th Congressional District in upstate New York. Thanks so much for joining us.
And Richard, it's great to be with you always.